A statement victory for the Dallas Cowboys against the Philadelphia Eagles this past Monday Night Football, blowing the Eagles out of the water and proving that they are one of the best teams in the NFL, might I say? Question mark. I mean, they competed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They they lost in an upset against the LA Chargers, but they are proving that they are the favorite to win the NFC East here for the 2021 season. We welcome you guys into a brand new episode of Time2Football as we talk about everything football related. We transition now from week 3 going into week 4 of the 2021 NFL season. It's crazy to think that we're already not quite a quarter of the NFL season done in 2021, regular season at least, because there's 18 weeks. But it's crazy to think that we're already transitioning into week 4. My name is Hassan Khan, the host of this YouTube channel called Time2Football. We're very, very appreciative that you guys are tuning in for this morning's show. I had a little bit of a late start just because I've been complaining about this for however long I can. The computer that I have, the MacBook, it's getting a little bit old, so the graphics had to export out for the ads and drops video. Took a little bit of time, but we're very appreciative that you guys are joining us. I have a little bit of I woke up with some sort of scratchy throat, itchy throat, I don't know, so I'm trying to drink a lot of water to get rid of it. Maybe I have COVID. I don't know, man. Maybe I do. Well, if I do, that sucks. But I pretty much stay at home all day, so, won't really make that much of a difference. But you guys are tuning in. Even though we got the little bit of the late start, we're appreciative that you guys are tuning in and continue to leave your comments in the chat. You guys are saying good morning, Deej. Good morning to you. Let's go, Radio Los Santos. Let's go. Good morning, sir. By Carl. How you doing? Mauricio. I'm gonna say Mauricio. Morning, sirs. Okay, so Carl, you said you're in desperate need of help. I am currently 1 and 2 for my main league. Went from 2nd place to now 9th. LOL. Hey, I got you. Just continue to leave your comments, leave your questions, because we're gonna have a segment dedicated later on, dedicated to viewer questions. So continue to leave your comments, any sort of questions you got. Carl, I will remember you. I will get back to you. Okay, but for now, what we got to do is we have to recap on NFL news and notes that's been going around the league for week 4, transitioning from week 3 into week 4. And I think with injury news, or before I get into injury news, you might not have caught this, but let me see if I can pull up the graphic right here. You might not have caught this, but it actually happened during our stream, and I did not check my phone to see. I got the notification after I got off air. I saw, oh, wow, this is actually a crazy trade that happened. But C.J. Henderson of the Jacksonville Jaguars actually was traded from the Jaguars to the Panthers in exchange for Dan Arnold, the tight end, and a 3rd-round pick. So if you missed that, it kind of went underneath the radar. But Dan Arnold, the former New Orleans Saints, Arizona Cardinal, Carolina Panther for the last 3 weeks, was traded to the Jaguars, who needed a tight end. And they decided to trade away C.J. Henderson, who is kind of hit or miss so far in his NFL career. Was drafted in the 1st round, actually, a couple years ago from Florida. And J.C. Horn being placed on injured reserve with a broken foot. The Panthers responded to that and said, okay, we got to get some top-level talent because we believe that this defense is legit enough to lead us to where we want to go in the future. So they traded for C.J. Henderson, which is actually, if you're a football fan, that's a big trade. So Dan Arnold and a 3rd-round pick to the Jaguars in exchange for C.J. Henderson. Just want to get you guys caught up on that. Josh Gordon has been reinstated by Commissioner Roger Goodell, and he is planning on signing with the Kansas City Chiefs to be that potentially wide receiver 2 that the Chiefs thought would get in Mecole Hardman, maybe in Demarcus Robinson. Josh Gordon seems like he's going to be the guy. He's 30 years old. He hasn't played a full season since 2013, 2014. He's just been in and out of the league, so I don't think that he's going to get 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. He's going to get 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns with the Chiefs. Yeah, that's going to happen. Josh Gordon reinstated. Tyler Boyd, this is actually a pretty, I guess, crazy quote, or it adds fuel to the fire for the rivalry between the Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tyler Boyd stated after the game between the Steelers and the Steelers and the Bengals that the Steelers gave up at the end. They had 3 drops in a row. This is a quote by Tyler Boyd. So, hey, I mean, the Steelers offense has not been looking good, and he's just adding fuel to the fire to that. Matt Nagy has stated that all three quarterbacks on the roster, Andy Dalton, Justin Fields, and Nick Foles, are eligible to be starting for the Bears this Sunday against the Detroit Lions. That is a mess. That is quite the mess that they have. The start that everybody expected or wanted from Justin Fields, it did not pan out. Cleveland Browns, very good offense or defense, so it's expected, but Foles and Dalton are also in the mix of coming back. Giovanni Bernard suffered an MCL sprain in last week's game against the LA Rams. He is now day-to-day. David Moore, the longtime Seattle Seahawk, signs with Denver to the practice squad after Denver has lost KJ Hamler for the season, and Jerry Jeudy is still recovering. Might be activated from IR pretty soon, sooner rather than later. Rob Gronkowski suffered a back injury. It was actually a shot to the ribs, and it could have been back, ribs, whatever. He was down for a while against the LA Rams. Took some x-rays. It's negative, and he's likely to play against his former team, the New England Patriots, and get some revenge. The Rams are hopeful that Darrell Henderson will be back this week. Sonny Michel got the start. Darrell Henderson likely to play this week. T.Y. Hilton suffered a neck injury at the beginning of the season. Not quite there yet. The words of Frank Reich. Hilton, more than likely, I would say probably not going to be playing this season. Scotty Miller has suffered a turf toe injury, actually severe turf toe, according to head coach Bruce Arians. Tyler Johnson, that was due to the fact that Johnson had that breakout game, was due to the fact that Scotty Miller had that turf toe injury and will probably be missing a couple of weeks at least. So Tyler Johnson will be putting into that wide receiver 4 spot after Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown we expect to be back and activated off the COVID-19 list. James White of the New England Patriots, hip subluxation. The same injury as Ryan Fitzpatrick, has been placed on IR. Quentin Nelson, the very talented offensive lineman of the Indianapolis Colts, high ankle sprain, suffered that and will probably be missing a few weeks. Juju Smith-Schuster, bruised ribs. He is now day-to-day. Probably, more than likely, will be playing, but just wanted to rest and practice for this week. And then Christian McCaffrey, update per Ian Rappaport of NFL.com, stated that he's only expected to miss a couple weeks. So they avoided placing him on short-term IR because of, they don't want him to miss 3 weeks. They thought he could come back in a couple weeks. But, seems like he is going to be coming back pretty soon. So don't shut out Christian McCaffrey just yet for the season. That's all I'm saying. So that is your NFL news and notes for this week, or at least for today. I always say this week. Forget that I have a daily show. Now, what delayed us in the process of actually being on time was because of these ads and drops that we come out with every single Tuesday. I show you an early look at that, and then I'm going to split up the video later as its own individual video on this channel, probably in about a couple hours before the stream ends. But we'll go ahead and show you the ads and drops that I pre-recorded this before this stream happened. I'm going to go ahead and show you that, and then I'm going to get back to you guys. So go ahead, check this out, ads and drops for week 4. Here are our fantasy football waiver wire ads and drops for week 4. With quarterbacks, the must-ads: Joe Burrow, Derek Carr, and Sam Darnold. And our ad of the week, Kirk Cousins. It's the same story every year. Cousins plays well, yet we think a new quarterback will solve all of the Vikings' problems. That stigma is why Cousins, who is currently a top 5 fantasy quarterback, is owned in just 32% of leagues. He's scored at least 22 points in every game, outscoring Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Russell Wilson. The must-drops: Ben Roethlisberger, Baker Mayfield, and Tua Tagovailoa. And our drop of the week, Mac Jones. The Patriots' passing game is a work in progress. The future is bright, but might not take until the second half of the season for Mac Jones to develop into a fantasy starter. Jones should not be owned in one quarterback leagues. Running backs, the must-ads: Alexander Mattison, Cordero Patterson, and Zach Moss. And our ad of the week, Chuba Hubbard. Last year, I had 7 of my starters get hurt. It was brutal. Since then, I told myself that for every RB1 on my roster, I will draft their handcuffs moving forward. Owners of Christian McCaffrey thought otherwise, as Hubbard is available in over 89% of leagues. McCaffrey will only miss a handful of weeks, but if you're that CMC owner that's in a bad spot, make Hubbard your priority. The must drops: David Johnson, James White, and Philip Lindsay. And our drop of the week, Peyton Barber. Don't you do it. Don't get too excited. Barber might have won some games for the 5% that started him, but Josh Jacobs is set to return soon, which diminishes Barber's value as the lead back. He's a good handcuff for managers that own Jacobs, but don't go spend too much fab on him thinking that he's an RB1. Wide receivers, the must-adds: Sammy Watkins, Bryan Edwards, and AJ Green. And our ad of the week, Emmanuel Sanders. We mentioned in our preseason draft rankings that the Bills intend to use Emmanuel Sanders to take on the role of John Brown, not Gabriel Davis. So far, they're staying true to their word. Sanders hasn't had a game with less than 6 targets and is averaging over 17 yards a catch. The must-drops: Nelson Aguilar, Russell Gage, and Terrace Marshall. And our drop of the week, Mecole Hardman. I get that he caught the touchdown, and if you need him as a handcuff for Tyreek Hill, I don't mind you holding on to him. But what we thought would have been a breakout season won't happen. It's the same offense it's been for years. Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill continue to dominate targets. Demarcus Robinson will eat in on Hardman's production as well. Unless Tyreek Hill gets hurt, you'll never find yourself in a position to start Hardman. Tight ends, the must-adds: Pat Freiermuth, Tyler Conklin, and Dawson Knox. And our out of the week, Dalton Schultz. What a nice surprise last week was. Schultz saw 7 targets for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns, proving that he's the starting tight end over Blake Jarwin. With at least 6 targets in 2 games this year, we can assume that Schultz will be utilized in a moderate amount moving forward, which at such a thin position, moderate, isn't terrible. The must-drops: Cole Kmet, Hunter Henry, and Max Williams. And our drop of the week, Jonnu Smith. This one hurts. Once Mac Jones took over, Smith instantly became a breakout candidate. And maybe the consistent targets could make it happen, but there's so much this offense needs to work on. Until the passing game gets up and running, Smith, who shares targets with Hunter Henry, shouldn't be in your starting lineup. Kickers, the must-adds: Rodrigo Blankenship, Daniel Carlson, and Matt Prater. And our ad of the week, Evan McPherson. It's a crime that McPherson is owned in just 5% of leagues. McPherson has scored at least 7 points in every game this season, and the Bengals offense will only get better throughout the year, meaning that McPherson's value can only go up. Buy in on McPherson while his value is low. The must-drops: Graham Gano, Chris Boswell, and Jason Sanders. And our drop of the week, Jason Myers. Call me lazy, but Myers is our drop of the week for a second straight week. He's owned in 83% of leagues when he's the 26th ranked fantasy kicker. Guys, kickers matter. You don't want a kicker on a team that scores way too much because their field goal opportunities are limited. I'd rather start the likes of Nick Folk, Evan McPherson, or Rodrigo Blankenship over Myers. Defense and special teams, the must-adds: the Colts, Saints, and the Bears. And our out of the week, the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals through 3 weeks are a top 10 fantasy defense, totaling 10 sacks and 4 turnovers. They have a juicy matchup this week against the Jaguars, who have given up 4 sacks and 9 turnovers this year. The must-drops: the Chiefs, Vikings, and the Packers. And our drop of the week, the San Francisco 49ers. Unless you want to keep the Niners on the bench for the next 3 weeks, you got to drop the defense. The Seahawks, Cardinals, and a bye week are on tap for San Francisco. Not to mention the 49ers haven't really lived up to their ADP just yet, so you could leave them on the waivers for a couple weeks and let someone else deal with them. And that is your waiver wire ads and drops for week 4. This was for the early birds, so if you missed this live stream, which would be dumb because you are watching it currently, but I will separate this video and upload it as its own video. I did not add Sleep Now in the Fire by Rage Against the Machine for the live stream just because we've been having some audio issues with music and it's just been sounding kind of funky. So I'm going to be adding the music later on for you guys that love Rage Against the Machines. But that is your waiver wire adds and drops for week 4. Now, what I'm going to get into is what we've been talking about for the last couple of Tuesdays on this live stream. Buy, sell, and hold for fantasy football. Which players should you buy? Which players should you sell? And which players should you hold for fantasy? Trade targets for fantasy football for this week, for week 4. So we're going to give a buy, a sell, and a hold for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, kickers, and defenses. Doesn't matter. Nobody really trades them. So we're not going to really touch on that. Let's go ahead and start with a buy for quarterbacks. Our buy, Joe Burrow, is a quarterback that you want to buy right now. He actually might be available on your waiver. So if he is, I would pick him up if you're in need of a quarterback or if you like to stream quarterbacks. But Joe Burrow's schedule coming up: the Jaguars, the Lions, the Packers, the Jets. And in every single game this year, all 3 games, he's thrown at least 2 touchdowns. So if you're in need of a quarterback, if you need to stream someone, Joe Burrow is that guy. I would buy on him. If he's a quarterback 2 on somebody's bench, you could actually trade for him in some sort of package deal, and you don't have to pay that much. So Joe Burrow is our quarterback buy. Quarterback sell, Taylor Heineke. I love Heineke. I watched him play since high school. But the thing with Heineke is, hey, we got to – his fantasy football value, or his week last week, was saved from a rushing touchdown. You can't expect a rushing touchdown every week, even though it's the Heineke signature to die for the pylon. He did it in the preseason with the Minnesota Vikings. He did it for Washington against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year in the playoffs. Did it again against the Buffalo Bills. You can't expect that every single week. So Heineke's value was saved by that rushing touchdown. If he didn't get that touchdown, we would be talking about Heineke only getting 13 or 14 fantasy points or so. So sell on Taylor Heineke while his value is really high. And then hold. When I talk about players that you need to hold, these are players that people are thinking about trading. And I mean, I'm saying don't trade them just yet. I just want to see what's going to happen with them. It's Russell Wilson. I think that Russell Wilson is just extremely talented. Yeah, against the Minnesota Vikings, which is not the best defense as far as fantasy football goes against the quarterbacks. Yeah, he was only limited to 16 points. That's why I would kind of limit him and hold onto him for just now. Let's just see what he does. I think he's going to get back into the groove of things. I mean, we saw in week 1, week 2, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and Russell Wilson. Don't be worried about him. I would hold on to Russell Wilson. Running backs. Our running back buy, Christian McCaffrey. I don't know if someone is freaking out. The guy that owns Christian McCaffrey in your league is freaking out like, hey, McCaffrey's hurt. Here we go again. He only played 3 games last year. Is going to be the same deal. I mean, according to Ian Rappaport, the report that we just read earlier on this podcast, McCaffrey is expected to only miss 2 weeks. Okay, and then my honest opinion, I think that they're going to actually shut him out for 3 to 4 weeks because I think they want to rest him a little bit for the long regular season. But I think that Christian McCaffrey, regardless, is a buy for fantasy football. At the running back position, that's our one buy while someone is low on him. I know that people are pretty high on him in my league. The guy that owns Christian McCaffrey is like, hey, I know that he's a first-round talent. Okay, so I'm not going to sell him for something cheap. He's just going to miss a couple of weeks. I get that. But if there's someone out there that's freaking out like, man, Christian McCaffrey missed 3 games or only played 3 games last year. It's the same deal. Here we go again. Yeah, attack that. Take advantage of that. Buy in on Christian McCaffrey. Running back sell, Kenyon Drake. I know it's going to be hard to kind of sell on Kenyon Drake right now, but I think that the weeks that Josh Jacobs missed prove that, okay, Kenyon Drake is not the RB2. It's Peyton Barber. Now, Peyton Barber probably will take a step back with Josh Jacobs in the lineup, and Kenyon Drake will still be that running back too. But I think that what it proved to us the last couple of weeks is that John Gruden really loves Peyton Barber. He proved it. He had a great game against the Miami Dolphins. He's a handcuff. He's a handcuff for Josh Jacobs. So if you want to sell Kenyon Drake to someone, especially if you're in a PPR league, it's like, hey, Drake is getting a lot of receptions. Here you go. Or someone that doesn't really pay attention and just looks at Kenyon Drake based off of name value. Yeah, I would sell Kenyon Drake. There's really no use for him at this point, even if Josh Jacobs were to start or weren't to start. You got to sell Kenyon Drake. Hold. So again, players, when I say they are players that you need to hold, This is potentially in the future you could trade him because I just want to see how they're going to do because I'm not too extremely high on him. But I'm saying for now, they could come around. And I think that David Montgomery, bad offense, bad offensive line, don't know what the quarterback situation looks like. I understand. But you have to hold on to him. You have to hold on to David Montgomery for the time being. He has a great matchup against the Lions coming up. He's got some pretty good matchups against some pretty running back friendly defenses. So if you drafted David Montgomery to be your RB2, hold on to him for just now. It sucks. I get it. Hold on to David Montgomery. Wide receivers. The wide receiver buy. Corey Davis. Buy in on this guy. He was probably a 10th, 11th round pick for many of you. The Jets offense is not great, I understand. But Zach Wilson is going to continue to target Corey Davis. Amazing week 1 against the Carolina Panthers. And then in week 2, not so great. Wasn't targeted a lot. That was an anomaly. That's what I'm telling you. Corey Davis is going to be the main target for Zach Wilson. It's going to continue to happen. Had 10 targets this last week against the Denver Broncos. So if you're in need of wide receiver depth, Corey Davis, more than likely for a lot of people, is on the bench. So I would buy in on Davis. If you desperately need a wide receiver, you could even flex him in and even stream him for a couple of times as your wide receiver too. Corey Davis, wide receiver buy. Wide receiver sell. This is the time to sell DJ Chark. After he caught his touchdown, back of the end zone in the corner, beautiful catch, beautiful touchdown celebration as well by DJ Chark. But that Jaguars offense is not consistent. I would sell on DJ Chark if I can because Marvin Jones is the wide receiver 1 and the main guy, the go-to for Trevor Lawrence. Heck, with Dan Arnold there, who knows? Maybe that's going to take targets away from DJ Chark as well. He's kind of inconsistent, Chark is, with his targets. 12 targets in week 1. Cool. They were coming back from behind. They come back from behind all the time, so they need to pass the ball. But Chark, what I'm saying is that Marvin Jones is the wide receiver 1. Chark, while his value is just high after that touchdown, even with his touchdown, he put up a decent stat line as far as fantasy football goes, but it still wasn't the greatest. So I would just sell on DJ Chark right now. Hold. Again, player to hold. Not high on him for the rest of the season, but he may come around. So I'm just saying to hold on to him. Will Fuller. Will Fuller of the Miami Dolphins was targeted 6 times. But what the tape didn't show, or the stats didn't show, is that I think there was 1 or 2 passes that Jacoby Brissett threw towards Will Fuller that were easily 15, 20-yard, could have been 15 to 20-yard completions, but they were called back because of penalties. So that gives me a lot of hope. And then one of the incompletions was a play that Will Fuller unfortunately got hurt on. What's new? But it was a deep pass to Will Fuller, which would have won the game for the Dolphins, slipped right through his hands. So that gave me a little bit of hope. As a Will Fuller owner, I had to actually make the tough decision. I had to make room on my roster, and I was like, do I drop Jacoby Myers or Will Fuller? And just by the way the passing offense of the Patriots looks, even though Myers is a target monster and is great in PPR, I made the decision to drop Myers and keep Will Fuller because I saw that, okay, there's a lot of potential, and he could emerge potentially as a wide receiver 1 in Miami. Once Tua comes back, there's been offseason reports saying that Brian Flores is forcing Tua Tagovailoa to throw the ball down the field a lot more to his downfield threats. So Will Fuller, hold on to him for now. It sucks. I get it. But when it comes down to it, downfield threat, Will Fuller, it's going to be worth it. Tight ends. Tight end buy. Kyle Pitts. Got to buy in on Kyle Pitts. Disappointing week 3. Had a good amount of targets in week 2. So I think this Falcons offense is going to eventually turn around once again into the swing of things with Arthur Smith. They're going to catch on to the offense. It's just a matter of time before Kyle Pitts emerges as maybe he's already the second target of Matt Ryan. I know Cordero Patterson is working in on there, which is kind of annoying for Kyle Pitts owners, but Pitts is way too talented. You gotta buy in on Kyle Pitts while his value is just really low right now. Sell on Mike Gesicki. I am a big Mike Gesicki fan. I loved Gesicki when he was in college. Coming in the NFL, actually, I said that he was going to be a breakout tight end, and it took about a year and a half before he got to the points where he did break out. But the way this offense is right now with Jacoby Brissett with this offensive line is just not the best. I would sell on Mike Gesicki. At best, I would hold him. But that's about it. I would sell Mike Gesicki after his 12-target game because his offense has way too many mouths to feed. The quarterback position is not the greatest right now. Sell on Mike Gesicki while his value is just high. And then hold Darren Waller. This is actually the most confident hold that I have out of anyone. There's a lot of people. I don't think there's really a need to say to hold on to Darren Waller, but I know there's a lot of people that chase fantasy points out there and they freak out. I just get a lot of questions about if a player doesn't perform well. Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. What do I do about this guy? I don't know. Guys, hold on to Darren Waller. 19 targets. So I just already tell you, I got to hold on to this guy. So those are the buys, sells, and holds for fantasy football for week 4 in the trade market. Leave your comments, leave your questions down below. Who do you guys feel like you should trade for or trade away? Now we're going to get into fantasy football questions. Hey, it doesn't have to just be fantasy football related. It could be questions, viewer questions that we have that you guys have been leaving in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and read off a couple of them and see what you guys have been leaving. Let's go ahead and start from the beginning. Okay, Carl, you're in desperate need. You have not... okay, you did leave a question. So last week I got burned by starting Rondale Moore. Yeah. Madison, Myers, Waddle, or Ayuk. I lost by 10 points, dude. I'm sorry, man. Yeah, I know that the Dalvin Cook news came a little bit later. I think it actually came, maybe it came before the 1 o'clock games, or maybe it didn't. But if it didn't, then that is a big blow because you could have been like, I should have started Madison over Rondale Moore. But Madison's proved that he is worthy of at least a fantasy football roster spot. Madison is legit even when Dalvin Cook were to miss some time. Okay, the live stream, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. The live stream is acting kind of funky right now. So it might shut off at any time. If it does, I apologize, but we're nearing towards the end. So I'm just going to go ahead and answer some questions as fast as possible before it freaks out on me. What else do we've got? What's your take on Tyson Williams? This is by Marcio. Hold on to Tyson Williams. Do not sell the guy. Buy in on him, actually, for something cheap. So if it gets to the point where, gosh, someone wants to be like, hey, I want to get rid of Tyson Williams. Yeah, trade for him for like a Jalen Waddle kind of trade. Like a low end. You can trade away Jacoby Myers for Tyson Williams. I still think he's the running back 1. But it is Lamar Jackson who's running the show at that point. Again, it's live stream is freaking out for you guys. Stay patient. I'm going to try to see if we can just get through this. What else do we've got? What are your thoughts on Cortland Sutton? This is by Joey Champagne. I love Sutton. I really do. I know that Tim Patrick is the main guy right now as far as Teddy Bridgewater goes. It was Cortland Sutton last week, and then Tim Patrick has just been looking solid. Sutton is kind of on and off, but I would keep him. He's a solid wide receiver too that you can trust in and play in every single week. What else do we've got? Trade Tyson, Mike Davis, and Debo for DK Metcalf and Elijah Mitchell. Absolutely not. Keep Debo Samuel. Keep Mike Davis. Keep Tyson. Tyson, just touched on him. Buy low candidate right now. Hold candidate right now. Mike Davis, they're wanting to get him more goal line work. I know the stats won't show it, but against the New York Giants, he got a pretty decent amount of goal line carries over Cordero Patterson. So I'm not too high on Mike Davis for the remainder of the season, but he's better than Elijah Mitchell, absolutely. And Debo Samuel, listen, 12 targets week 1, 8 targets week 2, 10 targets last week against the Green Bay Packers. Hold on Debo Samuel. I think he's the wide receiver. He's a top 10 wide receiver right now in fantasy football, if I'm not mistaken. And DK is, he's a buy low candidate right now. But Elijah Mitchell is, Hey, that running game is going to run through Jeff Wilson in a few weeks. So Elijah Mitchell, not confident. Not confident. Andres, Edward Elaire, and Chris Godwin for Jackson and Jamar Chase. I received Chris Godwin and CEH. Should I do it? So you trade away Mixon and Chase? Absolutely not. Mixon may not get a lot of yards. He might break off a huge run here and there. But I'm going to lean in on Mixon and the workload that he's getting right now as the clear 3-down back for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he's getting the most amount of touches, or a solid amount of touches, compared to any other running back right now. So I would keep Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase, dude. The targets aren't quite there yet for Jamar Chase, but the touchdowns, it does kind of worry me that he's only touchdown dependent. But I mean, the matchups and the schedule. We read off Joe Burrow's schedule coming up. Jamar Chase has got to benefit from that, especially this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Beautiful matchup for Jamar Chase. Do not do it. I would keep Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase. Gabriel, pick a side. Pick a side hoe, side chick. Okay. Montgomery and Cooper, or CEH and Waddle. Montgomery and Cooper. I would pick that side. Montgomery, it's just a matter of time before he gets back put into that 20 touches per game role. 10 touches last week. Okay, last week it was kind of a cluster F. Just quarterback position, offensive line, it's just bad. It's bad. Okay, but the matchups coming up for David Montgomery is solid. For Amari Cooper as well, I mean, that was last week. They didn't have to really pass the ball a lot. They just leaned in on Ezekiel Elliott and that run game for the most part. So I would keep Cooper and Montgomery if you're thinking about trading them away. Or if you want to explore that trade and trade for them, do it. Let's answer a couple of more because I know this stream is just freaking, I don't know why it's just freezing, but I'm going to go ahead and answer a couple more. IME258, would you drop Younghoe Koo for one of your starts of the week? Hurts to drop him, but the Atlanta offense is really holding him back. Yeah, it does hurt. It does hurt. I love Koo. Falcons fan right here. So Koo came in clutch. Pride of Georgia Southern. Came in clutch in that victory against the New York Giants. It does hurt. It really does. I do think that the Falcons are going to turn it around and Koo's going to come back. But if I had to choose between Koo or maybe Evan McPherson, who's owned in just 5% of leagues, I know I talk about him a lot. He is the next Justin Tucker. The amount of accuracy that he has on his kicks is amazing. Evan McPherson is the guy that you'd want. So if I had to drop Koo for Evan McPherson, yeah. If I had to drop Koo for Daniel Carlson even, yes, I would do it. Let's answer one more. Then we got to sign off. What do we've got? I'm not going to answer starts and sits questions just yet, just because I'm still working on starts and sits. So I'm going to answer some more, but it's Champa. It's Champa. Would you pick up Josh Gordon but using a waiver priority pick one? No. Nope. Josh Gordon is not going to be the same Josh Gordon of the Cleveland Browns. It's not going to happen. Would you pick him up? Sure, if you want, but no. I'm avoiding Josh Gordon completely. I don't even have him as one of the must-adds because there's so many other wide receivers that I can stream and be better off with. I would be better off with Sammy Watkins off the waivers. Michael Pittman, I don't know how much he's owned in leagues, but if he's on the waivers, I'd pick him up. Jacoby Myers, I'd be better off with him. I'd be better off with even Devontae Parker by the amount of targets that he's been getting than Josh Gordon. I would wait. Once Josh Gordon gets activated from the practice squad and he plays a little bit, I think it's going to take a couple weeks before Josh Gordon gets back into the swing of things. And even if he does, he's not going to be the same player that he was on the Cleveland Browns. Let's go ahead and cut off the stream at this point. We appreciate you guys joining us for this stream. Again, we had a little bit of a late start, but you guys come in clutch all the time and seem to do a very good job of tuning in whenever we send out that notification that we are live. So subscribe to this channel and stay up to date for these fantasy football videos. We've got the ads and drops videos at its own separate videos coming out later today. We've got trade targets and then starts and sits later tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.